This is Queer from the Other Side.
Your queer approach to everything from the paranormal and supernatural realms.
With no subject left unexplored.
I'm Shauna, your resident witch with a talent for hunting ghosts and connecting with Earth's energy.
I'm Alexander, your in-house skeptic, with my own ghost stories and obsession with outer space. But will I ever believe?
And I'm Derek, your on-air spiritualist on a mission to awaken souls to ground their spiritual power into their physical experience, bridging heaven and earth.
Get ready to explore.
Here we go.
The show starts now.
Hello and welcome to Queer from the Other Side. I'm Intuitive Shauna. I am your resident witch.
And I'm Alexander. I'm your resident skeptic. And I see we have a little visitor, a returning visitor.
Stephanie, our resident doll. I think that, she should have that title. She's our resident haunted doll. She's here to come out and play. We have a very special treat for everyone today, a special treat for Stephanie. I'm so excited to see how this is going to go. So we do have our first guest, Stephanie, and her entourage, if you will. But we do have a special guest with us today, and that is Annie Toufic. And Annie is an Akashic Records Reader. She's an automatic writer, psychometry. She practices psychometry and is a singing glamour ghoul. Her spiritual journey started when she was 17, and she went through a series of premonitions, including a death, a near-fatal car accident, and a paranormal experience with Vampira.
Okay, I can't wait to hear about that, because I'm obsessed with Vampira.
I'm all for, I have this Vampira, cosmetic mirror that someone gave me recently that I've literally never used until 2 minutes ago, sitting between you guys.
Well, it's time. It's time, girl.
Vampira is like, hey, bitch, yep. I'm here. I'm here, guys. So she talked to Vampira, or had an experience with Vampira from beyond the grave. After years of suppressing her gifts, she found herself at a crossroads with her career as a hairdresser, and she was forced to answer to spirit after a 10-month stint of being mostly bedridden at the time with an undiagnosed mystery autoimmune disorder. After beginning her professional practice nearly 5 years ago, she continues to take courses, study different modalities, and deepen her connection to spirit. Maybe I can deepen my connection to speaking correctly. Probably not going to happen, but we're going to try. But with that said, everyone, please welcome Annie to the show.
It's so cutesy over there.
She told me to wear my flag. So it's like, okay, I got to come correct. Well, Miss Stephanie.
So I'm so excited for this. You have such an interesting and eclectic practice that you do. We're friends on Instagram, which I think is how everyone is friends these days. So we're internet friends that don't always mingle in the real world. So hi, we actually exist. But I watch you just kind of go through your thing, and you are a tarot reader. Mm-hmm. You do specialize in Akashic Records, and just through a conversation we're having, you were like, oh, I could totally read the doll and do her Akashic Records, which blew my mind because it never even occurred to me that could happen. But I feel like you really don't give yourself enough credit with how often it seems like you tangle with the spookies. That's kind of your thing.
I'm really bad at promoting myself. I know it doesn't seem like I'm shy, but I actually secretly am, which is like why I do all of this outward stuff to draw attention to me so I don't have to work as hard. But I'm actually quite shy, and I had to get myself hypnotized before I became a little openly singing glamour ghoul.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing, and I love that. I had to do something similar 8 million years ago. When I started doing readings professionally, because one thing that people love to do is they like to play this very expensive game called Stump the Psychic.
Yeah. I know even my friends go in and like, oh, I'm going to not give any information, or I'm going to give wrong information. I'm like, You're just ruining your session, and you're putting that bad energy out in the air. Yeah,
and you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So I used to try really hard to play that game with people to try and please them, and then a friend of mine that's a hypnotherapist actually worked with me on that. And then it clicked 3 months later. It was this very weird delayed thing, but just boom. I'm like, I don't play Stump the Psychic anymore. And I just kind of shut that down. It's amazing how we can rewire our unconscious mind for stuff like that to build confidence and things of that nature.
Well, I tell you, the first time I got my tarot cards read was not until college, because I was growing up. You didn't do any of that stuff, and so I went, and it was at a Pride event actually, and this woman read my cards, and everything she said was so ridiculously outlandish and so ridiculous. I was like, okay, well, now I know that that's fake. Within 6 months, everything that she said would happen happened, and we're talking crazy stuff, like unbelievable stuff.
You have, again, you really have the best experiences. Like,
I'm still a skeptic.
I'm kind of jealous. I don't want the sleep paralysis demon.
Nope.
The insomnia you don't want.
But the rest of it, I'm kind of into. So, little jealous. I had a weird dream that I own part of Lizzie Borden's house recently.
Because you're obsessed and you got to visit.
I got to visit. I didn't get to go in the basement. I'm assuming they have one. I got to go in the basement of the house next door, but I had a dream that I bought the rights, or like owned just the basement, and I went there, and it was some woman that owned the rest of it that was supposed to be Christina Ricci's sister.
Well, because Christina Ricci played Lizzie Borden.
That's why I think like that was like my unconscious mind. But I bring all of that up because during the dream, as I was like, I wasn't trying to wake up. My kid was waking me up. I was having a blast. In the dream, we were having to dig up the front yard for dead bodies. It was a lot of fun. But there was like this weight on me. Like I felt like there was something like sitting on my chest, and a lot of people that have issues with like the sleep paralysis demons mention that was the closest I ever came to it. It thoroughly ruined my really awesome grave digging robbing dream, and I was very offended by that. So you can keep that.
Maybe something followed you from the house back. Maybe that's kind of what's going on there. This kind of goes on sometimes when I start talking about witchy things. Not all the time. I don't know how long it lasts. It just kind of upticks and goes away. And I always compare it to listening to the traffic report, but it's like an energetic traffic report. I'm like, when it goes up, it's something you should pay attention to.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, that was like, I feel like there was something very, like, obviously very subconscious about that dream. So I was skeptical, but I feel like there was something that was tapped in there. So we shall see what's up with that. I want to talk to you more and dive into 800 things, but how did you have that crazy reading and all of it came true and you're still like, I don't know.
I thought maybe it was just a fluke, and then I've had other readings that were way off. But this was crazy, and I wasn't mindful of the paranormal world like I am now. Like I'm obsessed with it now.
Yeah.
And I know how like you came into feeling like right when you were a kid, and you just had this experience. What fascinates me with you is that you were a little bit older. You were in your teens when you started realizing you had this gift.
So the first experience that I had, and later on taking a class with Griffin, who you guys have had on here, I found out the symbolism of what had happened. But essentially, my grandfather and I shared the same birthday. And he had gone to the hospital because he fell and he cracked a rib. Nothing, no big deal. Typically, you're fine, you recover from that. But he had asked for a drink of my water. So I gave him a drink of my water, and then I took a drink of water. And then when we left and on the way home, I had a vision that he was going to die in the morning. And later on, what I found out from Griffin is that saliva, when you exchange saliva with someone, you're exchanging knowledge and information, like connecting to that. And so I believe that's how I tapped into that, but also because we were so close in the physical world. And then almost exactly a year later, I was in a car accident where I was hit by a drunk driver. And my friend's mom was driving us. It was to this Hindu celebration called Ras Garba. And before we went out, I was like, something really bad is going to happen. I know something really bad is going to happen. And they're like, oh, Annie, you're just being paranoid. And I was like, okay. I gaslit myself. I was like, I'm going to be wrong. We're leaving the event. We're in Anaheim. We're turning on a curved off-ramp, so you're supposed to slow down. And this driver is going 100 miles an hour. He's fucking drunk. He rear-ends us. The car spins out and almost goes into the oncoming traffic below. Her mom slammed on the brakes just in time. My seatbelt partially broke. They have no idea how I didn't fly out, how I didn't break any bones. how I didn't, have any internal bleeding, but I had a lot of nerve damage. And so after that, I thought I was going totally insane.
but did you grow up in any type of a spiritual household? Was there any part of you that's like, maybe I'm not nuts, maybe I'm psychic? I mean, it even sounds insane just to say that, but I mean, like, was that part of it for you ever?
So my mom's family, they're American, and they're from Arkansas. There was some Masons on that side of the family, so there's a little bit of wanting to know more about unknown, unshared knowledge. My great-grandpa and some of his brothers and some of my uncles. But that was about it. Everyone was like Presbyterian on that side. And my dad's side of the family, they're Maronite Lebanese Catholic. But my grandpa, my dad's father, Toufic, which is where I get the name from, he used to work for British intelligence in Lebanon.
Oh my God. There's like 5 different movies happening like right now in this story.
And later on he became like an arms dealer. Like it was crazy. They had to flee Iraq one time in the middle of the night because they found out what he did and they were going to kill him and his wife and at the time 2 kids. So there's probably a little like witchy powers from that side or some remote viewing abilities from that side of the family, but nobody outwardly talked about it.
Your family's already turning into some of the most interesting people I've ever heard of. I love this. And then there's you, who becomes the psychic witch that talks to haunted dolls. Somehow you're beginning to look tame in comparison.
I'm like, God, my life is so boring.
How did you build your skill set from having these kind of premonitions and then kind of being like, okay, this is my path? How did you build that? Were you going to classes? Were you reading books? Or were you just like working on your own connection with spirit and energy?
So when I was a hairdresser, I really started feeling things from people because you're having that close proximity, that close relationship that builds over time. And then in some different cultures, they see your hair as an antenna, holds information.
I was just going to say, you're working with people's hair. That ties into their fate and their spirit and all sorts of stuff.
Well, and isn't there spell work that you need somebody's hair?
Yeah, that's called a tag lock. Yes, that's absolutely a thing. It's basically like an identifier. A lot of times, instead of that for clients, I'll ask for like their full initials and birthday. But yeah, you want to use something that belongs to that person that ties into their identity. Yeah, exactly. The spell needs to know who it's working for or at,
And so over time, I started to pick up way too much. And I saw one of my girlfriends at the time, her aunt was a witch in Japan and she was visiting. She didn't speak any English. And she gave me a reading and they translated it and she gave me some like protection amulets. And she was like, it's going to be easier for you at work now, but you need to stop ignoring this. And so then I took that very seriously and I started to study. And then I would still kind of ignore it sometimes. And then I started getting really sick at work. And another thing I learned from Griffin's class is sometimes when we ignore the initiation, we're forced to be initiated. And so I suddenly became allergic to like all hair dye.
Oh, wow.
As a hairdresser, that's a problem.
Yeah, I was like passing out at work, having breathing issues, breaking out in hives. It was crazy. So I spent like 10 months in bed before the pandemic. And the week before lockdown, I got diagnosed with this autoimmune condition called mast cell activation syndrome. And I just like to call it bubble girl syndrome because you're like allergic to so many things, but at a level that's not normal. But that time of 10 months where like I was going to the emergency room at least once a month, getting shots or IV Benadryl or steroid injections, I really, I was already kind of tapping into that stuff before this happened and like would do what I didn't know at the time were cold readings, particularly for this ex I had that was a writer. And like, he'd be like, I have this meeting with Brian Grazer. I have this meeting with Ron Howard. I need to know how it's going to go. And I would just be like, blah, 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 blah. And then he would do whatever I said and like it worked out and it came true. and he sold his script.
Oh, that's great.
But I was starting to do that already, but when I was sick, I really had time to start sitting and reading and being like, okay, I'm not going crazy, can't do hair anymore. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with myself, and I need to figure out what all this means, because I feel like I've been ignoring it for so long and it's shouting at me. So my first class was with Pleasant. Then I took Reiki from someone else that didn't work at the Green Man. Then I took mediumship from Melissa. I took some glamour classes from you. Yeah, and it just, I started to see what I was good at and what I wasn't good at, and then I started to work on it. And then I took Akashic courses from this woman, Carrie Ann, who's from Connecticut. One of my friends connected me to her. And then also this teacher from Canada, and her name is, I was just talking to her. Why am I blanking out? I'll get her name in a second.
It'll come back.
She's
to you later.
amazing, though. They're all amazing.
I mean, it sounds like you really just dedicated yourself to just being a student of the craft to create and refine your craft.
Yeah, well, because I when I started having these things, I'm 36 now, almost 37. You know, when I was 16, 17 years old and started having these premonitions, this was not cool. Like, nobody talked about this. It was really hard to find shops that dedicated themselves to this, or at least I wasn't looking in the right place.
I mean, I think back then, because you and I are roughly the same age, like, all there really was like the psychic eye.
Yeah.
You know, and then like there was kind of like the Bodhi tree, but that was a little bit more new age than in depth with like an occult leaning. And then like we had Raven's Flight for a little bit, but I think that was already gone by that time.
Well, and I grew up on the west side, so I don't even know some of these
there was
places.
like nothing. Yeah.
There was like one family that had a psychic place, but like it was never open, and like there was like, do they live there? Like, what's going on? How do they stay open?
Oh, it's just one of those stores where you go by, you're like, is it a front? It's a front,
Is
right?
it front for something?
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch that show? I think it was called like Eyes Wide Open. Shut Eye. That's what it was called. It was about the psychic mafia. I think it's on Hulu. Like, please watch it.
Watch this.
Yes, it was so good. And the thing that's great about it is that like all of the psychic shops that they film are all around like the Valley in LA. They're like, oh, I know that one. It's right on the Van Nuys off ramp. But yeah, it's about like this guy that's like a mentalist. And he like pretends to be like this psychic that will like cleanse people's houses, but he's actually like breaking into their attics and like putting voice boxes in with like all this crazy stuff. But there's like a mob boss, and it's all like in connection with all of these weird little psychic shops that you're always like, is this place ever open? It's stuff like that. Oh, Lord. It was great.
But I actually love the old school mob though. Like, I have a ghost story about the mob if you'd like to hear it.
I absolutely want to hear that, because I romanticize the mob in a very unhealthy fashion.
Me too.
I think. Yeah.
Okay, I literally have a Benjamin Siegel altar in my room.
Oh my God.
You are devoted, girl.
That was one of my first ghost hunts.
Whoa!
Was to talk to Bugsy. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So I brought up the right thing then. This was after I had taken a mediumship course with Melissa. I had just started doing the Akashic stuff. Tara Kenzie, that's the name of the teacher from Canada. So I kept having this weird dream, and I kept seeing this really hot guy, and he kept like telling me things that were going to happen. And at first I was just like, I'm crazy, whatever, this is nobody, like this hot 1940s gentleman. And then I was getting ready at the end of 2022 to go to Hollywood forever with one of my friends, and we were trying to plan like spots to go to. And so I was like, okay, let me look up like the celebrities there. So I go to the list of people that are buried there, and before I even start scrolling, I hear the word Bugsy shouted at me. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm scrolling, and then I'm like, well, Mel Blanc is there. He played Bugs Bunny. Like, I'm thinking the most obvious thing. And then I'm like, something is telling me to click on the B's. So I did, and I saw Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Obviously, I'd heard the name, but I didn't know what he looked like. So then I Googled what he looked like, and I was like, holy fuck, this is the hunk I've been seeing in my dreams.
Are you telling me that Bugsy Siegel is one of your spirit guides?
Maybe a shadow guide?
That's
I don't know.
Freaking cool. Okay.
I don't know if he is, but he was definitely around for a time. And once he, like, finally in one of my dreams, I was able to speak in my dream. And I was like, what are you here for? And he was like, he's gonna punch. He's gonna punch like a girl, and it's gonna hurt real bad. And in my waking life, I had been trying to figure out if the guy who I was dating was a piece of crap or not. And he actually lived and worked quite close to where Bugsy was murdered.
Was that like near the Hollywood Tower, right? Wasn't he dangled out the window?
No, he was killed at the house he was renting for his mistress, Virginia Hill.
Okay. Maybe he dangled someone out the window at Hollywood Tower. Okay.
Oh, I think that might have been Mickey Cohen. I don't remember.
We're gonna have to stop because I think we're gonna spiral on all the mob stuff. But we're gonna have to have a mob.
So he tells me he's gonna get hurt real bad. He's gonna punch like a girl. Don't know what the fuck it means. And I said, okay, give me a sign to whatever this means so I can decode what this means. And he just starts laughing. Wake up. Within 48 hours, the guy that I was dating got punched in the face by a temp at work. And his verbatim words that he said to me was, it didn't even hurt. He punched like a girl. Wow. And I was like, okay, so you're letting me know this guy's a piece of shit. Cool. Great.
Right.
Wow.
We're breaking up.
So how does that happen, though? How does somebody like a Bugsy run around and say, oh, I want to help this person out? Like, how does that connection happen?
I have no idea personally. I did ask a witch because when it comes to myself, I like to get a second opinion because I'm like, I don't want to project whatever I think this is here. Let's do a blind study. And so I think it was Melissa that I was talking to. And she was like, well, sometimes, when you're close to these areas, if they see you or they have something that they identify with in you, they're going to be like, I'm going to help her. And apparently there is like a group of witches that go and visit him at Hollywood Forever. Like that's a thing. I didn't know that. That's like a thing. There's like women dedicated to him because he likes to help out women, not men.
Yeah.
He'll rough them up, but he likes to help women.
That is so fascinating. Yeah. I love all the different like connections that we have with like the weird mafia knowledge and stuff like that. What I want to add about like different spirits deciding who they want to help and who not, I feel they do have to see something within you that they relate to, that they want to help. But one thing I have noticed though is like if you want it, they probably won't. Yeah. Like I've known people that have tried to like contact specific like celebrities and like pseudo celebrities and stuff, and I feel like it's because you want it, it's probably coming from a place of ego. It's not coming from this like really authentic place. So like at the time, like you didn't even really know who he was. So it's not like you were out looking for it. It just happened. And also, when you hear that name, you don't think of anything positive.
No.
You just don't. Like, when you think of mobsters, that's not what it is. But you just kind of gave a positive light to his name. Like,
I mean, every quote-unquote villain has a positive side. Whether it's positive to us or not, to them, they're doing something positive. So if he had a crush on women, he's having, he's helping.
Yeah, he's like, But also, I kind of wonder if there are a certain level of, and I think Melissa may have told me this too, I might be misquoting, but I think she had said sometimes when people are shadow guides, they have a certain level of things they have to do before they're eligible for like reincarnation again or something like that.
Kind of like spiritual community service.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it makes sense. But unless they come from a wholesome place, they can't just do it for the sake of doing it. It has to come from a wholesome place.
Yeah. You have to like really mean it.
Movies like that. Yeah. It's like, okay, you.
That makes a lot of sense. My grandmother used to work for Mickey Cohen, by the way. That's why I was like, okay, we'll talk about this later. We'll have like mob boss night. So, I mean, one of the ways that I always think about you in my head is as Akashic Annie. Like, I always think about you that way. So, can you explain to us What are the Akashic Records, and why should we get ours read?
Okay, so the Akashic Records are an energetic space. Some people visualize them as a library. Some people visualize them as like a great hall of books. I personally believe that each individual healer, reader, witch, whatever you want to call, shaman, whatever you want to call yourself, is shown things in a way that they can interpret them, and that amplifies whatever your gifts are. So it's the same sentiment and message behind it, but the visual representation may be different based off of what would be most effective for you to interpret. So, and anyone can do it, but you just have to set the space properly. So essentially what the Akashic Records hold are information. Sometimes you can tap into them for the energy of a home, the energy of an item, for I've done readings for pets, but they're very short. They're like 15 minutes, you know? And the things they talk about are just like, don't feed me that food and stuff like that. Like, it's really silly. But you can get information from a person's past life, and I even do the same method of automatic writing for people who need like a present life energy clearing. So the way that I do it is through automatic writing primarily. Some people also do live channeling, and some people do like just umbrella kind of readings, which to me, I like to describe that as like, they'll just tell you a scenario, but not necessarily negative things. But for me, what I do is I look for the spookies and the weird contracts and the negative things that are lingering, that are creating patterns for you now that you don't necessarily have an experience or an origin in this lifetime to connect that phobia or that repeated pattern to. So like, let's say you're like super afraid of water and you're like, I had no negative experiences. What the fuck? You might have drowned or been waterboarded in your past life, you know? Or you know, almost drowned. There's different things like that that come up.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We've talked about, you don't necessarily have a phobia, but you have something like high ceilings, right?
Yeah, so I have autociliophobia, which is, it affects a very small percentage, but it's a form of agoraphobia, but it's a fear of high ceilings. So like when I went to Europe, my trip was miserable because every cathedral is so big, and I passed out at the Vatican because I can feel the weight of all this empty space, and it's a form of vertigo, form of agoraphobia, but it affects a very small people. But like, I can't check into the Luxor in Vegas because the ceiling is so high. There's certain airports that I have to skirt all the way around because I can feel this empty space. And it just, I don't have a fear of being sucked up and then dropped. It's just...
Do you get like dizzy?
Yes.
Okay.
I get dizzy and then like that's how I fainted. But it's this intense fear, and I just cannot. And even if I close my eyes, I can feel how...
Have you ever been told that maybe you were like hung in a past life?
No, and I've never had any past life, anything like that. You know, I was raised very Catholic, and that just wasn't part of it. How I feel about past lives, you know, we've talked about past lives a lot.
Yeah.
You know, maybe some people have them, maybe some people don't. But yeah, so that's that kind of weird thing. Now, from your mind, the Akashic Records, where do they come from? Because we've talked about the Akashic Records. Who's putting the library together? Who's keeping the books clean? Like, who's taking care of this? Yeah, like...
So it doesn't happen so much anymore because I just go in and out quicker. But when I was first starting to do it, my visualization process was like pretty intense. Like, I'd go in an elevator, I'd go up to the 5D, and then there'd be like this old... She kind of reminded me of like a woman you'd see gambling in Vegas with like her little updo and like the little like visor on, like
so cute.
smoking a cigarette.
Here I am. Yeah.
I don't remember what her name was because I gave her a name for a while, but let's just say Ethel. But like, I'd see her and I'd be like, give my like little library card and be like, I need to check out this person. And then it would be like, I'd be zooming to the thing. Now I'm just more in and out because I've been doing it for a couple years, but my visualization in the beginning was pretty intense. But I do feel like there are guardians of it. I know that as far as angels go, they say Metatron is a record keeper. So that is probably one of the guardians of this energetic realm. If you're going to go into angels or
The
whatever,
angelic
deities.
work of it. Yeah.
I love chaotic angels, by the way.
That's all of them. That's all of them. Well, I don't read Akashic Records, but I do some work with soul contracts, which to me, they're kind of on the same level.
Yeah.
Every time I have to
What's
talk
the soul contract?
kind of like exactly what it sounds like. It's like something that your soul kind of signed up for, what your spirit has signed up for, things that you're destined to do.
Can I have an amendment to my contract?
Literally,
You can sometimes have things cleared, if it's a bad contract.
Or if you understand it. And there's things that you can do with it. I think like sometimes you can't fully do like a full workaround. It depends. But anytime that I've had to do that, like a visual that always pops into my head is like the most basic plain gray filing cabinet, like one of the old metal ones. Like that's what I was saying. Like, all right, let's just leaf through all these middle folders till we find yours. That's so visualization's definitely part of it.
I would see it like that too, almost like a card catalog where I'd have to like sift through it and be like, okay, this problem for this lifetime, we'll put it over there. Automatic, write this down, move on to the next one. What's the other lifetime causing problems?
So let's talk about automatic writing for a minute, because I have always found it super exciting and fascinating. I don't know why I knew what it was as a kid, but I used to get in so much trouble because I used to try and practice it, and like there'd just be like papers full of loops from me just kind of just doing that, and I'd get in trouble because my grandmother would be like, you don't know who you're talking to, like why are you trying to do that, which is true, but a weird thing for like a 7-year-old to get in trouble for. So explain to us automatic writing, and like where did you learn it and how do you use it in your practice?
Okay, so I use it for my energy clearings, for my home clearings, because most of them that I do are remote viewing, like from a distance. Like people, I get a lot of clients from the East Coast because they have a lot of like haunted houses there.
Yeah.
I've always been jealous of my East Coast friends because like we don't have nearly as many cool ghosts as they do.
No. And the way that I do it, I learned how to do it when I started doing Akashic readings, because this particular teacher was like, you have to write everything down. That's how she would do it. So what I started implementing to get my process more accurate and more honed in was I started listening to channeling frequencies, specifically like Hertz frequencies geared towards that. And like you can literally just Google it. There's a few main ones, but even just different frequencies get you into that meditative state to really just tap in. And when I took a class from Melissa, what she told us was, okay, if you need to be very careful if you're doing automatic writing, because for that same sentiment, you don't know what you're inviting in, but make sure, pull out your pendulum, pull out your dowsing rods, or if you have any paranormal gear, to make sure, am I tapping into this? Are you telling me divine truths? Are you only giving me information of truth? If you are not giving me information of truth, you must leave now. And so going through that whole process of making sure you're on the right frequency before you fully go in. Now, for me, I learned how to do it on a keyboard, which...
I've never heard this. This is like witchcraft for like 2024. That's insane.
So... because sometimes when you do automatic writing by hand, your literal handwriting, she knows this, your literal handwriting will change, and sometimes it's ineligible.
Yeah, it is. And so one thing I will say for anyone that's listening that wants to try this or wants to practice it, save your papers and have somebody check them. Like almost like in school when you'd exchange to grade papers, you have to do that, because I have actually picked up really interesting keywords that made so much sense to investigations that we've done. But to me, it looked like scribbles. I didn't know there was a word there. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so what I do is after I do my little opening and set the space, I will invite whatever energy that is here only. And Melissa told us that too. She's like, if you're going to, number one, make sure you're fucking doing it right, because you don't need some fucking demon or something attached to you or whatever. And number two, designate it to an area when you're a beginner. And even though I'm not as much of a professional as you are. I haven't been doing it as long. I'm still scared, and I'm just like, no, here only. You can give me visuals as a vignette. You can drop me in, but you cannot take over me, period.
That's not because you're a beginner. That's because you're smart. That's because you're smart. You don't want to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. I think having a little bit of fear is very healthy. Just like, this might sound like a weird comparison, but like the ocean. The ocean is something that we navigate, we travel, we play in at the beach. It can also take you out really quick. There has to be a healthy respect and fear.
Yeah.
Ocean is terrifying, and we also haven't explored so much of it because it gets so deep that like light doesn't even reach there at all, and like we don't know what's there.
Yeah,
that's a whole other show we need to do because I'm fascinated by what's in the ocean.
Other aliens.
No,
Yeah.
I was literally just going to say there's this quote of Megan the Stallion, and she's like, we're looking in the wrong place. The aliens are not up there. They're down there.
I mean,
yes.
I don't think she's wrong.
I don't think she's
There's
wrong
been many
either.
reports by like the Navy and all that, and some people think that they use like hydraulics to, or hydro system to propel themselves out.
Yeah.
And whatever. But there's been cases of a lot of water activity.
Oh, yeah. So
That's kind of terrifying. I think that's triggering like my alien phobia now.
So when I'm done with the automatic writing, I always have a glass of water out when I'm writing. And when I'm done, if I feel like there's something on me, I'll like put my hands over it and try to like shove it out. Then I'll dump it out the window or feed it to a plant or something. And then, I'll state like I'm closing down.
It's a plant that you like really hate. It's your like fuck you plant. Like
Okay, so usually I just throw it out the window. But like one time I was really dumb and I threw it in the toilet. And this was like, I had done a ghost removal from my friend who was living in Nashville. I was like a baby witch. This was like 2020. And I was like, okay, put your hand on the screen. I'm going to put my hand on the screen, and then I'm going to put my hand over this glass of water, and you put yours over your glass of water too. And then all of a sudden, I was like telling her, focus on moving it out, and I'm going to use my energy to help you pull it off of you. And so then her arm started shaking, and she was so skeptical. And she's like, what the fuck is happening? We did it. Both of us put it in our toilets. And the next day at the same time, even though she was in a different time zone, like she texted me and then I texted her, and both of our toilets fucking flooded.
That's crazy.
So now I'm like never in the toilet again. Just throw it out the window.
I throw so much weird stuff like that in my toilet, and I will never do that again now. Thank you. I mean, I can throw something in the street. I'm really careful about when I give stuff to plants because it's like negative energy. That's why I'm like, is it your fuck you plant?
I need to get a fuck you plant.
Yeah, or you just like gift them to people you don't like afterwards. Here you go.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's like laying a trap, kind of.
Can I ask you something with with what
Yes.
you've seen and experienced and your connection?
Yeah.
How has that shaped? And I know you've had health issues too. Like you were in the emergency room last month, right?
Oh my God.
How does
That
this
was
shape
fucked up.
your kind of relationship with like spirituality or what you believe in and like life after death?
So for myself, what I've noticed, my theme, and one of my Akashic teachers told me that this was like a theme that I had, and this is why it keeps reoccurring. When I overextend myself, that's when I end up in the fucking hospital. When I give too many like discounts or freebies, I will give them to people when they need them or when I know they're really struggling. But like I have to put like a cap off on mine because based off of some of my past life issues, like I was just over giving all the time. So I'm like, okay, so that's my lesson in this lifetime is to not overextend myself because it hits you physically. But I technically died for like 20 seconds when I went into the hospital. So my
This
heart,
past month?
yeah.
Are you like ultra psychic now?
Shit's been really intense.
I mean, you've technically been to the other side, so like I feel like,
So, they don't write down that you've died, but they medically induce a death, and then they bring you back.
That's
so
like flatliner shit.
it was. No, technically you flatlined for like 10 or 20 seconds. So my heart was beating really, really out of control. It was like over 200. And I wasn't doing anything to trigger it. I was getting ready to go to this birthday party. I was with my boyfriend. And the irony is I was going to dress up like death for the party because the theme was Paradise Lost. And I was going to make jokes the whole day, like, hey, like, just because I'm off duty doesn't mean you can dive off the window, or, just dumb shit like that. And it's like, well, the joke's on you, girl. So we go to the emergency room, and they try all these mechanical things to make your heart get back. Like, they massage your artery, they make you cough and do these weird exercises so that your vagus nerve stimulates your heart to go to a normal rhythm. None of that was working. So then they're like, okay, we're going to give you this shot. It's called adenosine, and you're going to feel really funny. And then we're going to shove your legs up really fast. I guess it makes the medicine hit. I don't know. So they give me this medicine, and the only way that I could describe it is if you could physically feel the Grim Reaper. And at that time, I didn't know that it makes you flatline. They just said it's going to restart your heart, but I didn't know they have to stop it in order to restart it. So I just felt this heat rising up from my leg and slowly wash over me. And I remember saying, this feels so fucking weird. What's happening? And then everything went black, and I came to, and my legs were up. And then when I came back, I just started screaming. But I just saw black for a couple seconds. Like, it felt like I had blanked out for a minute. And that was it. I didn't see anything crazy, but maybe it's because it, wasn't my time to go.
It wasn't your time. You had to come back.
Yeah, it was crazy, though. It was nuts.
It's wild. Well, I mean, they always talk about near-death experiences being tied to, third eye, awakenings and all of these different things. And it sounds like you've had
a couple
one actual kind of death experience. But yeah, you've kind of tangled with it a lot. So I guess it also makes sense that you do work with spirits and stuff, because you are connected to the other side because you've been there and you've been in that liminal space.
Not by choice.
But do you believe in this heaven idea, or do you subscribe to any of the religious ideas from your experience?
So I'm not certain about certain aspects, obviously. But one thing that I do subscribe to is that I think a lot of people who were sainted were actually healers. Because if you look at saints, a lot of them have dealt with chronic illness or mystery illness.
That is so interesting. Yeah, that's
very
true.
The one connection that
we have studied saints all growing up, so we know every story.
The one saint that I do work with, I don't really subscribe to one thing. I pull from a lot of places. I mean, I got a Bugsy Siegel altar, I got a Sekhmet altar, but then I have a Saint Benedict one, and I bought him from this estate sale online from Paris, and he's over 100 years old. And whenever I use that thing for a candle for someone, it pops off in the craziest fucking way.
That's awesome. I love that. And I've never thought about cruising estate sales for it.
No, but a lot of saints did have really bad health problems themselves. Yeah. But they can't become a saint unless healing miracles have been done in their name, or that they are part of. I think there's two that have to, and there's a whole process that Catholics finally make a saint.
I thought they had to do 3 miracles. It's 2?
It's 2, I think, physical miracles, and then it's some mysterious something. There's a whole thing to it, and it's changed. But it's part of it has to be some sort of healing.
But you know what? You're right, because the saints that I've researched, a lot of them. It does. It has to do with there's healing the blind and this and that. Yeah. So yeah, that does make sense. My favorite saint is Saint Lawrence, and I actually don't know why he was Canada. I loved him.
Is there a Saint Lawrence?
There's he is the
Saint
patron.
Larry?
Nope. He is because he is the patron saint of barbecues and smartasses.
What?
Yes.
I'm gonna look this guy up.
You will love him. He was basically roasted over hot coals to death, and it said that his dying words where he looked at the soldier and said, "Turn me over, I'm done on this side."
Oh my god!
And I'm
God.
yes, praise be to Saint Lawrence.
He's a little cheeky too.
Yeah. So speaking of cheeky, I can hear Stephanie you guys are supposed to, right?
Oh yeah.
She's that's enough chit chat. It's about me. So let's talk to Stephanie. I'm going to move her towards you. If you want, you can hold her. I don't know where you two are in your relationship yet. It feels a little cold.
Respect her. So the funny thing that I want to mention is that when I was getting ready to do the automatic writing based off of your email that you gave me, she got really pissed off. And the visualization that I saw was almost like a nonverbal person, And she kept, like, telepathically, I was hearing,
no notepads. Even though I wasn't writing on a notepad, I was on my computer. It's like I was analyzing her.
Okay. So I was like, okay, got to do it live. All right. And when I was getting ready to come here now, I was getting ready and I took a shower last night and then I was told, take a bath again. And so, like, I was like, but, like, in the bath. So I was like, okay, I think this is her. Like, so I picked my little hat with the flower on it and I tried to come very demure because I felt like her energy is something that, like, needs to be respected. But when I was in the bath, I kept seeing this visualization almost of, like, somebody being restrained in, like, an ice bath or something. So I don't know if that was her energy or just it felt like the way that I was interpreting it based off of, like, the no notation, getting grunts, and that visualization when I was in the bath, it almost felt like I was being dropped into an experience because I was seeing
vignettes of it kind of flash before me. So I don't know if she was ever institutionalized. I don't remember if you mentioned that in your email.
So I don't have anything that confirms that she was institutionalized, but I really believe that she was, just given the fact that we're talking about, like, the 50s and 60s. We're talking about someone that did have different disabilities that, especially at the time, we didn't know anything about. So I do believe that she was at some point institutionalized. That's probably what the bath was.
Yeah, it was almost kind of like someone was being held down. And it was weird because as I was putting the water over my body, it was a little too cold. But when it was cold, that's when I was getting the visuals. When I warmed up the water again, they stopped. So I turned it down and I turned the cold back up again. But it was almost like someone being held down or restrained, them putting ice in it, and her just really fighting that feeling. But it was almost like to calm the reactions of the nervous system, but it did the opposite from based off of the visual that I was seeing.
I do feel like there was something like that for her. I also wonder if, and maybe you guys can do an episode dedicated to, like, having, like, a meter or something, like, answer, like, the yes or no questions if she's willing to do so to confirm certain things or not. But it almost felt like the energy of somebody who, well, I can't use that word because she doesn't want me to use that. But I was, like, going to say something and I was like, no. But she felt like she maybe would have been somewhere on the spectrum now, but also a lot of very experimental things done on her, which by today's standards would probably be considered kind of barbaric. And I do feel like she was maybe assaulted at some point in time intimately, based off of the aggression towards, like, it felt more like masculine energy, but also just anyone in authority. So if we're talking about the 50s or 60s,
men were in charge. That was it.
I almost want to say that there may have been there was, like, a fear of pregnancy arising from whatever this assault was, but I also feel like she had to possibly be treated for something that was passed to her during this experience, or being left with some type of, I don't know if it was, like, a physical marking, like a scar, or, like, a marking from, you know, possibly getting, like, an infection or something based off of, like, what diseases kind of went around there, but almost like there was a mark
that was left from whatever this incident was. And that being a point of contention for her, and almost kind of like picking or festering at whatever that was there, because she didn't like that it was there. But the caveat is, like, by picking at something that's on your body, especially associated to a negative memory, is you're making the scar from it worse.
But yeah, there was it feels like there was things done to her because she couldn't necessarily speak up.
I just got chills. Like, yeah, like I feel like that's probably right. Does she show you why she's decided to attach to this doll?
Just gonna ask that.
It's innocence. So, because there was some trauma associated with potential, sexuality or that type of
engagement is what I want to say. There is less fear around being in something that is a vessel that's a vessel of innocence. Also, it seems like she really likes children and playing with children. She's aggressive sometimes, but she's the one in control in those scenarios, not an adult
or a man.
I don't think anyone would be surprised if my kid was like, yeah, my mom let me play with haunted dolls when I was growing up. No one would be surprised. She does come off very childlike to me, and that's how she's always been presented, even though I know she's an adult. But I do try and respect that like childlike aspect, and I do know that she has a lot of intensity to her, but I also know that she has a very nice light side as long as you respect her.
Yeah.
Is there anything that as her caregiver I should know to kind of help like assist the spirit?
So, the reason why she wasn't fully cleared before, I feel like what she's trying to show, she did try to move on, but I think ultimately
she didn't want to. She wasn't ready of what that would be like, that next experience. When there's a level of like fear is what I'm being shown, especially of the unknown, because a lot of things were done to her that were supposed to help her. You're going to stick with the uncomfortable that you know versus the uncomfortable that you don't know.
Yeah. I've actually had somebody try to cross her over, and it felt very against her will. And I didn't even ask for it. The person was like, I'm just going to do it. And I was like, but I didn't interfere because I didn't think they could. Like, I was like, she doesn't want to. I don't think she's going anywhere.
No. There's just, again, it's like a lot of things were kind of done that were told were going to help her, that did not help her. So there's just not that trust there of trusting in other people unless she has a relationship cultivated with you.
Well, I hope that I am providing a good afterlife for her too, because I feel like that's kind of part of my job and my relationship with her is to give her like the love and the happiness that she didn't have when she was alive.
Yeah. She does like your son a lot, though.
Well, I hope so. I hope she's tolerant of him. Lord knows one of us needs to be.
her energy is very heavy. But she's good. I tried to talk to her a couple times just because I knew you saying that you kind of need to like ease up to her before coming in. Otherwise, I don't think if I did that, I don't think this would be happening. And it will be interesting to see what I've discerned properly, or like maybe I interpreted incorrectly, but like when you go and ask her more questions, you'll get confirmations of yeses and nos.
Well, we will report back on that. I feel like we're going to have to take her out again soon. That's what I'm getting. I feel like this was really heavy, and I feel like she wants to go out and kind of lighten the mood now.
Let loose.
Yeah. I think she's going to need it.
Yeah. Does she like the park?
The park. I can't say that I've ever taken her to the park. If she wants to go play with animals, she is going to be at an oddity shop at the beginning of December to help teach a class.
Is it Oddities Flea Market or another one?
No, she's going to be at this store called Vulture Culture in Burbank.
Oh, amazing.
I am actually teaming up with them, and Greenman Griffin and I are teaching a class on haunted objects, and I guess they have haunted taxidermy there.
Oh, I love that.
You're going to be in heaven.
I'm gonna be so excited, and my wallet is gonna be so afraid. Like, bitch, put it down. You do not need a $400 like monkey head. Relax. Like, that's what's gonna happen. But Stephanie's actually coming with me, so it'll be like the ghost version of a park.
Oh yeah.
Annie, in your opinion, what's the best way that we, our audience, can best tap into their spirituality side if they've always wanted to and maybe don't know that they are spiritual or connected or anything?
One of my favorite books of tapping into that, and it's tapping into synchronizations and calling things to yourself as well by using your subconscious mind. It's an old school one, and it's kind of underrated. Not a lot of people talk about it, but Jose Silva's Mind Control Method. I love that book. And it's not mind control of other people, but it's using your own mind to cultivate a lot of things, including but not limited to finding lost items, including but not limited to like he gives an example of how he used a certain meditation that he cultivated to get correct lotto numbers, like shit like that. But I've utilized it a lot myself. And the great thing is after each chapter, it tells you to pause and practice the exercise that was given to you. And this guy, this was like in the 40s and 50s.
Oh, wow.
He was studying a whole bunch of different religions and types of spirituality, grew up Catholic. And he decided to start testing these methods on his kids when they were working for himself and his wife. And his kids started like acing all their tests and stuff like that. Like just really bizarre things. But there was something that I found in my house that I think maybe belongs to somebody here. And I used one of those methods of meditation. So... wait, which pocket is it? Does this belong to anyone here?
What does it say on it?
It says Awareness, Kenneth Cole.
Is it a mauve?
Yeah.
That's my watch. Are you crazy? This is my watch.
Really?
We're talking from like 6 years ago. Are you insane right now? Because I haven't been able to find one because it's a mauve face. I couldn't see the exact color. That's my watch. How did you get it?
Wow.
And this like same thing and everything.
Your watch is haunted. The ghost took it.
And so my friend worked for a Men's Warehouse and would get discounts on awareness watches because they're the only brand that carries the awareness brand. So I have a bunch of said watches, and I lost this because it matched one of my mauve suits so well. But from like 6 years ago.
So I did get a little help from somebody to bring that into reality. I lied, it's not from psychic stuff, but I wanted to see your reaction.
No, but I lost a watch like this 6 years ago.
So, do you want me to tell you the truth? This was a little prank that I planned with Shayna. So, I date Alex. That's how I got your watch.
Who's Alex?
What? He was on your podcast, The Drinks one, a couple times. Alex Burke.
Oh my God! Years ago. Oh, I know how it happened now.
This was a prank.
No, but I know how it happened. My heart just stopped though because I've been asking for like signs and. This is so weird. I know exactly how it happened. Now the whole memory just came flooding back to me. We went to his studio it was after we recorded and I was blitzed and one of the other musicians and I were blitzed and I left stuff at his studio.
Yeah.
But that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So she and I were talking.
Oh my God, that is insane.
And I was like, I want you
Do you know how much I've missed
on the
this goddamn
show.
watch?
Well, there you go. We were talking and she sends me a message. She's like, I think my Alex knows your Alex. And I was like, what? And she's like, my
haven't talked to him
boyfriend
in
was on
years either.
Alexander's show. So she's like, she told me the story about the watch. And she's like, if we can find it, I'm bringing it. So I have been sitting on this prank for months now, and I was like so excited that she's
This used to be
finally
one of my favorite watches, though. And I remember because, like I said, I was so blitzed, and then the other, there was a couple other musicians, and we just kept drinking, and I think I left, and I think I passed out on his sofa in his studio.
And
were you there that night?
No, we've only been dating for a year, but like when I saw, because I checked out all the hosts on the show, and I saw that we were mutuals, and so I told Alex, I was like, how do you know this, Alex? And he goes, oh my God, he's amazing. And he goes, wait, I have something of
That is
his.
so weird.
And I was
funny.
like,
Dude, the look on your face
I
was
know,
amazing.
No, but in a way though, if you've been asking for signs, what are the chances that I would be dating someone that left your watch
Years ago.
6 years ago at their house? They still had it. He's probably moved 5 or 6 times since you.
And I haven't talked to him in years, too. I haven't talked to him since before COVID.
He was very excited for us to pull off this prank.
Oh my God, that is so funny. And I miss this watch a lot.
That's a weird thing to hold on to.
Yeah, it is.
Well, he was like, every time that we met up after that, like it was randomly, so I never had it with me.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And he loses and breaks everything, so it's a miracle that is
That's
intact.
funny. Yeah, after all these years.
Yeah. She sent me a message. She's like, we like, yeah. And she like explained and connected all the dots. And I was like, this is so great. So we planned this. And I was so excited, and I couldn't, and I like didn't tell Tony as much as I wanted to. I'm like, no one must know. This has to be a surprise. Your face was perfect. I loved it. I loved your reaction. That was great. Because you were also very serious. You were like, what in the fuck just happened?
Yeah, because I know that I've missed this watch.
But it's still
a great color, too.
synchronization.
Yeah.
Yep. And that color is absolutely your color. So I love
Yeah,
that.
100%. Well, thank you for returning. I'll send Alex a message and be like, guess what?
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a push that you need. Maybe you guys are supposed to like work on something or do
We're
something.
going to work on music at one point, but he's so busy with stuff. I mean, he does so many different projects musically, and so we never came around to it. And then we got into COVID, so we never had followed up on it. So
Fascinating.
Well, he's going to be here in December, so
that's
he'll be
insane.
back from tour, so you can connect then.
That's insane.
Well, I don't know what was my favorite part, talking to Stephanie or pranking Alexander. I think pranking you was my favorite, Alexander. That was pretty
about to
good.
pass out, 'cause I'm like, there's no way that watch like popped out of nowhere.
There was a part of me that was like, just don't tell him. This
I
just blows
almost
my mind. But I'm like, that's not
Didn't,
fair.
but yeah, I was like, we can't lie.
If we, as much as it would be, that might have been what turns the skeptic into a believer. Like, it has to be a real
But
thing.
Still, just the synchronization alone. What is the chance?
Why he would hold on to that year after year, and like he had told me once that I left it, and then it just left my mind until now, and I'm like a vision. I'm seeing us in that studio because he was recording us, and we were so drunk and so whatever, and he's so he's not like that. But I remember because I did pass out on his sofa, and I left early in the morning, and I'm
I can't wait to read your memoirs. I'm going to love that so much. Well, okay, before we let you go, I do have one question, because I love trying to help empower our listeners and give people things that they can kind of take with them. You did talk about how like spirits kind of just tell you little things. It's not uncommon to get little nudges. Hey, take that watch. Hey, move that candle into your cauldron. Those little nudges. How did you start to like differentiate like your mental chit chat from that? How can our listeners start to try and pick that up for themselves?
So one of my teachers told us that if it is a constant thing that comes through almost like a phobia or like frantic, that's probably your inner monologue. But if it's a calmness and it's a knowing and you don't know how you know it, that is a way to kind of trust that discernment. I also realized that when I would do readings for people, typically the less sense it made to me, I just started trusting and blurting it out, because I realized if you do have people that are skeptics, if you say those little nuggets and there's no way you would know it, there's nothing on social media, there's nothing that you could have, if you were like a scammer, seen beforehand, when you just say those little things that come to mind or those little visualizations, the less sense it makes to you, oftentimes the more sense it makes to the other person. And if it doesn't, sometimes it ends up making sense to them after the reading when they think about it.
Yep. I agree. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
everything. This was, I feel like we just had like a wild ride of mobster ghost stories, talking to haunted dolls, pranking
I got my
you. You got your watch back.
We have to talk about Vampira one day, though.
Yeah, we didn't even get to that. We have to do that.
And aliens. I have alien stories for you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to. No, I'll be brave or blitzed, one of the two.
Yeah.
That'll help me get through that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And so, where can everyone find you? What are you up to, and where can people find you?
So I'm up to a lot of witchery and also writing and singing, and try to use all my witchy abilities in one place. So my name on Instagram is _singing_witch.
All right, and it's right on the screen for everyone on YouTube, so you guys can find it there, and you guys can follow her and see what she's up to, and also check out the song that you just released too.
Oh yeah, The Devil Let Me In.
Yep. So
It's
that was
actually
really
about a
cool.
man.
And you have a novella too that you wrote.
Oh yes, that's the alien stories.
Before
Yeah.
and after?
It's called Above Below.
above below.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do it
Because
in part two.
didn't we talk about like a Joshua Tree alien once? Right.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna have to have you back on because I feel like we could talk to you forever. So we will tuck that one away and we'll bring you back next season for sure. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope all of you guys find your lost watches.
That's
is
just
my-
insane, though.
My sprinkle blessing for everyone. If you have lost a watch, may you find it in a timely fashion. Don't forget to check out our website, queerfromtheotherside.com. You can find our blogs. You can find all the past episodes, snippets from the show, things like that. We're also across all the social media platforms, so don't forget to check us out.
And thank you to Stephanie, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was just going to say thank you to Stephanie. Thank you for talking to us. And until next time, we, stay spooky, bitches. Bye.
Bye.
That was another episode of Queer from the Other Side.
Please like, share, review, and subscribe.
Until next time, stay curious.